Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the BLACKBIRD PLC Interim Results Investor Presentation. Throughout this recorded presentation, investors will be in listen-only mode. Questions are encouraged. They can be submitted at any time via the Q&A tab that's just situated on the right-hand corner of your screen. Please just simply type in your questions and press send. The company may not be in a position to answer every question it receives during the meeting itself. However, the company can review all questions submitted today and will publish those responses where it is appropriate to do so. Before we begin, as usual, we would just like to submit the following poll, and if you would give that your kind attention, I'm sure the company would be most grateful. And I would now like to hand you over to the executive management team from BLACKBIRD PLC. Ian, good morning, sir.
Good morning, Jake. Thank you very much, and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to BLACKBIRD's interim results, September 2024. I'm just going to take a moment just to introduce my team around me before we start. Stephen Streeter here, I'm sure you know very well, the founder of the company and R&D director. Sumit Rai on my left-hand side, who is our Chief Product Officer. Stephen White, our Chief Financial Officer and COO. And last but not least, Anna Kirkhoff, who is our new chair. Anne has joined us in March this year and recently moved into the chair position. She's also chair of Eagle Eye PLC, Pebble Group PLC, and senior independent director on Evoke PLC, who own 888 and William Hill. Thank you, and I'm now going to move on to the presentation. So before we start, just a little bit about who we are and what we do. BLACKBIRD PLC has two products, and they're based around the same piece of technology, and that is the ability for our technology to access video, to playback video, and to manage to edit video in an excellent professional way in a browser. So it's all done on very low resource very low resource technology and bandwidth. Now the two products are, hold on a second, I just lost my screen. The first product is a professional video editor in a browser that is used on the very pinnacle of sports and news around the world. Most recently, it was used on the Paris 2024 Olympic Games and provided the backbone for the media center in Paris. So anyone that was plugged into the Olympic Broadcasting Service, that really is anyone other than Warner Brothers or Discovery content, would have been using BLACKBIRD to playback clips and indeed fast turnaround highlights. Now our second product, Elevate.io, is where the vast majority of our efforts being spent over the last 18 months or so. This is a product for the creator economy and it's an online co-creation platform. That means it is a collaborative platform that allows users to create, manage, and distribute content. The technology is multi-award winning, and it also qualifies for the London Stock Exchange Green Economy mark, because more than 50% of our revenue comes from a sustainable source. So 2024 to date, as I just mentioned, we were used on some of the most valuable sports and news content around the world. The Summer Games 2024 being the real pinnacle of that. But the vast effort this year has been put into Elevate.io. And in March 2024, we launched its general release, the very first iteration of Elevate.io. Now, each and every iteration doesn't have a name or a number. There is continuous releases pretty much on a daily basis of improved enhancements and functionality and features to Elevate.io. And a week ago, which is September the 4th, last Wednesday, we were so confident with the product and where it got to that we decided to do our first marketing campaign. Now this is really a tactical marketing campaign, really to try and learn about how the marketing works, but also how users will use the product and get some data sets that are kind of real. When we started last week, we had around 800 users that were kind of a demand from investors and BLACKBIRD users that have been drifting into the product since we launched in March. But since last Wednesday, we've added another 1,000 users as of Monday morning this week, which just kind of shows the trajectory of where we're going. Now, we've been continuing that campaign right up until now, and we will continue to run it because it's really valuable information for us. This is not really part of our strategic marketing campaign, but really a learning process. I'd just like to say it's quite minimal spend. We've only spent around £1,500 so far to acquire those 1,000 users. So it just gives you a bit of an indication. Now, one of the other key things that we've been working on this year is to make sure that our board is aligned with what we're doing in terms of Elevate. And Anne is just one of the key board members that's joined us this year. And perhaps you'd like to tell us how you built the rest of the board.
Absolutely. First of all, I was delighted to be appointed to chair BLACKBIRD. I've been in the video space for a long, long time. I was building very simple video games when Stephen was building some of the most extraordinary technology in the games industry. And so for years, I've known the pain points of video editing. It is the most complex medium to operate in and to edit, and particularly to do it at speed and to do it in a cloud-based solution. And so I was a believer of BLACKBIRD from the very beginning. And the fact that we have such impressive clients, the fact that we're running the summer games without any single glitch just shows you the power of the technology. I am also fully aware that the broadcast world has gone through tremendous change. And the winners right now are the content creators, the creators that are building their own media empires and businesses based on the quality videos that they're producing. And they need collaboration tools. They need powerful tools that have the same quality as broadcasters, but allow much faster editing and much faster collaboration. And so when I was looking at building the board, I really wanted to get experts from that field. And Yuri's, who was appointed a few weeks ago, is exactly that example. He was a fundamental in launching YouTube across the EMEA and Eastern Europe. He was one of the partnership directors there who helped build the networks that got influencers and content creators to embrace the platform and to monetize on the platform. He was there at the very creation of the content creation economy, but then he saw its evolution into what is a professional sector. He also worked at Jellysmack, which is one of the largest networks that precisely provides tools for those content creators. So he has lived and breathed the content creation economy for over 15 years and has seen its evolution. And when we first sought new board members, we actually gave them the platform, and Yuri said, this is exactly the tool I've been looking for years for my content creators. And Nick, who's literally just been appointed a few days ago, is a fantastic chief marketing officer, very focused on data marketing, performance-driven marketing, but also massive player in building communities. He was the chief marketing officer at Flow, and Flow built a global, extraordinarily tight community. And that's what we need in the content creation economy. So I hope with this new board, we're really forward-looking rather than backward-looking. We're looking at the new broadcasting media landscape rather than the past. And we will be supportive of the executive team to try to help them in accelerating the go-to-market.
Thanks, Anne. I have to say that the board are incredibly hands-on as well. It's been a real pleasure to work with everybody so far. Everyone's on the front foot. Nick has already just joined us on Monday, but already plugged into our Google Analytics and helping us there. So really, really fantastic. Steve.
Thanks, Ian. So our BLACKBIRD platform, which is in the media entertainment space, has been suffering a little bit from the continual structural and cyclical changes within the industry that we've spoken to you before about. Coupled with the fact of the A&E loss last year, our H1 revenues were down 30% year on year. The outlook for the TV advertising over the next few years is still weak, and it's forecast to contract. On the flip side, the creator economy is fast growing, is set to double over the same period, and is a massive market. So this really sort of emphasizes that the change in focus towards the creator economy at the back end of 2021 was the right strategic move for the company. Our cash burn in the period, we kept flat at 1.9 million, despite the drop in revenues and increased investment in Elevate.io. And this has been brought about by very disciplined cost control. On the BLACKBIRD platform, we get a lot of innovation from that, and the Elevate.io platform benefits from that innovation. So we're targeting getting that platform to a break-even position by the end of this year. I'm pleased to say that we've made a really strong start to H2 2024. The summer games, where we took in 75 live feeds, went off seamlessly and without a hitch, which is a fantastic testament to the technology. We've also signed deal renewals with CBS Sports, US Department of State, and Televisa Univision. I'll now pass you back to Ian to talk a little bit more about Elevate.io.
Thanks, Steve. So this is a quick look at the Elevate.io interface as we know it today. And this is going to be added to as we move through the next few months with text, transitions, team structure, and eventually billing as we go into Q1 next year. It's really about, we've really designed this around the user journey and the user experience. This is a platform with the philosophy of we got you. We want to make sure that this is a safe, a secure, a stress-free, and a fast process for creators to make content. There is first of all the create area, which is the basic editing functions that we've literally just shown you right now, which allow you to work in parallel or sequentially, just as Google Docs would allow you to work in a document sequentially or in parallel, where you can actually create content together directly with somebody simultaneously, or you can pick someone else's document or video up and work on it sequentially. This means that there is no need for re-upload or download of content as you move through the process. If people are working in teams, right now they would have to send vast amounts of video to each other, which takes huge amounts of time and is very frustrating. We've estimated that around 50% of the creative process today is spent on non-creative processes. And this also negates the concept of production hell. A lot of agencies at the moment will say you have 3 revisions and that's it, because it takes too long to keep sending the content back and forth. Well, that really takes that whole concept away, which is great. We also have a managed process. So behind the scenes, once you've uploaded your content, you don't need to worry about hard drives. Creators don't have to worry about hard drives, whether they get lost, whether they get filed properly, or whether they get corrupted, which is a highly stressful part of the process for creators. And then you can seamlessly access that content to move that into current projects or indeed past projects, etc. And then, as many of you will know, we have a unique player technology. This is part of the distribution platform, which will allow you to instantly preview and share content, whether it's a 1-minute piece or whether it's an 11-hour piece. You'll be able to instantly share that with as many people as you want to, for them to see the entire piece put together. We'll also allow multi-platform publishing in time, which means you can publish those direct to websites or to YouTube or indeed to any social media that you require. So it's really, as I say, it's really a we got you experience that allows the stress and to come out of the process and speed to be put into it. Now we've seen with just this short marketing campaign over 5 days or a week or so now that we're selling into a wall of demand, but we knew this. And in terms of the numbers of people that want to be creating video stories, the stat that we pull out here is that almost 90% of young Americans want to be a social media influencer, just remarkable. Between 2020 and 2022, there were 165 million new creators, and Goldman Sachs have predicted that this market will grow from 250 billion to 500 billion by 2027. So just enormous stats that we're selling into, but we've picked out a particular market where we feel, A, that we are suited to, appropriate for in terms of the positioning of the platform, but also to have a propensity to pay for the platform. And this is the professional teams and monetized creators section. We estimate this market to be around a $6.9 billion a year market, and this is 2022 numbers. We feel this has only grown probably quite considerably. Now we're a SaaS company, but we're a SaaS company that is really focused on product-led growth. And product-led growth has four phases to it. That is, first of all, we have to have really quality engineering to provide a top quality product for people to enjoy. That product then becomes the main salesperson for the product, and then we push people through the funnel. The next part of it is to acquire customers, the next part of it is to interact with those customers, and the next part of it is to transact with those customers and retain them. So that's really kind of the funnel that we're moving through with product growth. If we achieve that and get that right, just as some of the poster child companies here on the screen have done, like Canva and Figma and Google Docs, of course, then we will experience lower CAC, lower customer acquisition costs, shorter sales cycles, accelerated growth, better user experience just by definition of having that salesperson as the product itself, and of course, higher customer retention. The keys to delivering on that promise, though, are to make sure that this product feels like a native app. It's going to be in a browser, but it's got to have that responsiveness, stability, consistency. The UX has to be beautiful, it has to feel pleasurable to use, and it has to be completely intuitive. People have to know how to use this product when they first log in and use it for the first time. The collaboration side of it has to be immediate and visible. You have to be able to see what other people are doing and what they're moving around. And we have to say we have achieved that. Now, everyone knows that's on this call, I'm sure, that this is a very dynamic market, and there are lots of technologies being used and lots of technology coming on the market all the time. AI is pretty much the watchword of the last couple of years, but also there's stock video libraries, there's special effects, and all of these pieces of technology will be in the marketplace that we'll be bringing on over time. This means that once you are an Elevate.io customer, that you will not have to worry about whether there are a piece of technology that you're missing out on. We'll make that available for the customer, and it will be an additional revenue stream where appropriate for our platform. Now, we've done quite a lot of work in trying and testing our competitive set. I've done four quadrants here. One is a horizontal axis, which is the collaboration aspect of it. And we feel, as I just mentioned, that collaboration is really important because most creators now are creating in teams, whether it's a pair or whether it's a larger team. And those teams are very rarely in the same place, in the same room. But even if they were, looking over someone's shoulder is really quite difficult. So this is about collaborating in a simultaneous and instantaneous way. There's really only a few platforms that really offer collaboration in any kind of meaningful sense. As well as us, there's a company called Scenery Video, and there's also Ozone Pro. And then there's the vertical axis is on whether a platform can be a daily driver. And that really just talks to the previous slide. Is it instantaneously accessible? Does it have the responsiveness? Is it future-proof? And there are a couple of platforms on the top left quadrant that really show that off, which is the really big incumbents, the Adobe Premiere Pros, the Apple Final Cuts, and the DaVinci Resolves. But they are not collaborative, and they are not online, and they're not able to be easily flexible for viewers. So we really are on our own, we feel, in that quadrant currently, and that's why we're starting to really double down in terms of getting users on board. Our go-to-market that we've just talked about in this experiment in the last few days is not strategic. It's really quite tactical at the moment. But as we move forward into go-to-market, the qualities and the skills and experience that we've brought onto the board are really going to help us shape our strategy around these three pillars. And that is to make sure that we have community, to make sure that our customers interact and transact and we retain them. To have a data-driven approach, not just in terms of customer acquisition, but also into understanding what they're doing with the platform, how they're using it, which features are attractive, which features don't work so well and we need to improve, and indeed how they distribute the content afterwards. We'll have a wealth of data that we'll be drilling into, and as we mentioned, Nick Lisher is going to be a key part of accessing and analysing that. And then finally, we want to accelerate the growth through partnership. And Yuri is a key part of that. Yuri's experience in terms of how the creator economy works, how the money flows, who the players are, will really be a great addition to the team there. So I just want to conclude with a couple of key points. First of all, we feel very confident that we've made the right product and that we're selling it into a fast-growing blue ocean market. And we've really tried to test the competitors to test that out. We've made excellent progress over the last 6 months in terms of the product-led growth strategy. So much so that we've now started to market it into users. And because of the attractiveness, I think, of the team, the technology, and the opportunity, we've managed to attract the very best-in-class growth-focused new board who are really going to help us realize the vision and the opportunity for us out there with our tech and product. Thank you very much. We are now very open to answer any questions you might have, ladies and gentlemen. So
perfect. Ian, that's great. And thank you all very much indeed for your presentation this morning. Ladies and gentlemen, please do continue to submit your questions just by using the Q&A tab that's situated on the top right-hand corner of your screen. But just while the company take a few moments to review those questions that were submitted already, I would just like to remind you that a recording of this presentation, along with a copy of the slides and the published Q&A, can all be accessed via your investor dashboard. Guys, as you can see, we have received a number of questions that were both pre-submitted ahead of today's event, as well as those that have made their way through during your presentation this morning as well. So firstly, thank you to all of those on the call for taking the time to submit their questions. And Ian, at this point, sir, if I may hand over to you just to chair the Q&A with the team, and if I pick up from you at the end, that would be great.
Thank you, Jake. Yeah, we do make every effort to try and answer every question, so we'll try to do that again today. Can you please let us know if there are any bonuses attached to the Olympics contract? If so, what the larger performance have they been met? Well, we had a complete 100% uptime through the games. I'd say that the customers, whether they be the OEM and the final customer, are very happy with Blackbird, but there weren't any bonuses attached, and that's just the nature of how that contract was made. It's very unusual to get any kind of bonuses attached to that kind of project. You just get unhappy people at the end if you don't succeed, which we did, fortunately. Is Elevate ahead of schedule for paid release? Elevate is on schedule for paid release at this stage. I think that's as far as we can talk about there. Have talks resumed with X? I don't think we ever had any talks with X. We definitely met X a couple of times, but it wasn't strategic talks. Okay, next one. Excellent progress team. Never felt more confident of Stephen Streeter's technology being realized. When can we expect affiliation marketing so I can get to work promoting Elevate IO? Well, I think that we've given a lot of indication of when we think that we will start to get some decent partnerships out there. But the main thing we could say right now is that billing will come on board in the first quarter next year. Yeah, that's as far as I can probably say on that one. Is the AdWords campaign of Elevate aimed at reaching potential users in specific geographies, locations, e.g. California, New York, Miami, London, etc.? Well, as of now, we're 1 week in. We are really just learning through the process, and perhaps over time we will start to be more specific about what we're doing. But at this stage, dipping a toe in is all I'd say right now. But watch this space. This is certainly a moving feast. With BlackBird being used for such events such as the Olympics, it would seem like having annual revenue of around 2 million is very low. Do you see the opportunity to implement price increases as you have a very good track record and how these high value events? So yeah, it's a great question, and we don't really want to dwell too much on the business of BlackBird. What we've done with BlackBird, the legacy product, is really through some bespoke development. We've got some really loyal customers that we learn from, and we treat BlackBird very much like a Formula One team. It's incredibly important for us to learn from these very demanding customers how to innovate. A lot of the engineers are taking their learnings and putting that learning into Elevate. But in terms of growing that business, we've recognized back in 2021 that actually that's going to be very hard yards. I wouldn't say it's a thankless task, but it's a very difficult task to kind of build a big company from. And so we've seen a much more dynamic, fast-growing market with less demands in the creator economy space, and that's where the vast amount of the emphasis has gone over the last few years. Are the new board members shareholders?
We will be very shortly.
And again, we have to publicly announce that information, so look out for any RNSs.
Could you talk us any further about how often users are using Elevate in the profile of a user? Sam, do you want to take that?
Yeah. So obviously we've gone out to quite a broad market, and what you find is naturally some people will log on, poke around, and we'll never see them again. Others we can see repeat use, we can see repeat uploading, repeat exporting. And at the moment it's a bit too hard for us to say what they're using it for because we don't have a lot of profiling. But as we begin to continue the experiment, every time that we run an AdWords campaign, or even whether it's through referrals, everything's tracked with UTM codes. So we know exactly where people come from. And with time, we'll begin to build up a picture of, okay, what users that we targeted either through AdWords campaigns or that we targeted through Insta campaigns, or obviously exhibitions. We're going to be presenting at IBC to a niche group of AV professionals actually tomorrow in Amsterdam. And obviously when we share our information with them, we'll be tagging that so we'll know how well they do. So I suppose in about the next 6 months, we'll be able to give more insight into actually who those users are. And again, numbers are great, but obviously what we really want to do is translate people to paying customers, and therefore the value of the customer is what we're obviously going to emphasize or target customers that are valuable to us in the long run. So that information is going to be crucial.
Got a question from JL. During the Olympics where your service was used, did you receive scripts credits on screen? No, we did not. We were working through an OEM partner, and it was all, any credits would have gone directly to OBS, which is the Olympic Broadcasting Service. You raised 1.05 million in February and circa 5 million in cash and short-term investments. Steve, I think this is going to be your question. Do you believe this is sufficient to sustain the company's growth strategy, particularly for Elevate IO, and what are your expectations regarding future capital raises?
We've always said that we've got enough cash to get Elevate.io to market and see if we gain traction. Obviously, with the ambitions that we've got as a board, over time, once we achieve success and everything, we want to market this property and fuel growth further.
Yeah, I think it's really about building something that's going to be attractive for investors to get behind, and that's not going to happen until we can show traction of the proposition. Stephen, would you like to talk further about the testing of the player?
Yes, so the player is progressing nicely. It's a showcase for our technology and also a development environment for the technology. I demonstrated at the AGM what it was looking like then, and we've opened it up to staff, and now we've opened it up to friends and family. And the big difference for the player compared with, say, Elevate.io is a very high-end professional product, but the player has got to be able to be used by anyone on any device and any browser. So the sort of uses in Elevate will be for review and approval and just sharing. Because of its instant publishing, it's a really nice way to just get content out to people. So the current stage we've just started is friends and family, and the idea is to get maybe 100, 200 people playing with it, which will give us all the feedback we need for making really robust technology to hand over to Summit as we start looking at both distribution, which is a fairly obvious side, but also helping in the create side.
Thanks, Stephen. Summit, things will be for you. Do you think you made it totally clear to those trying Elevate right now that this is an early stage product which will have very significant additional features over the next few months?
We continue to update. In fact, this week we'll be sending out another mailer to the existing users where we make it clear that the whole process is an ongoing process. What's important to understand, and I think we mentioned this at the AGM, all of our the targeting of where we are, explaining where we are in this process is very relevant to investors, but it's not relevant to users. And what you don't want to do is make users feel too much that they are part of an early stage product, because a lot of users will be put off by that. So it's there, and it's understandable to those who tune into the webcasts, obviously those who may follow us from an investor perspective, but we really don't want to make a big song and dance about where we are in the process. We want users to come on board, try the product, and just keep seeing that it is getting better and better. We certainly don't want to stick huge beta labels across everything, which was very much the trend maybe 15 years ago at Google, but it's definitely not something that we want to do now. We want to just bring them on the journey.
And Summit, isn't it fair to say that right now exactly every company that's product-led drops new features and functionality every week, and that's what users expect, and we will continue to do that even after the paying platform is live. We will continue to enrich the platform, and that's what users in this space really expect. So they're expecting those drops, the regular drops, and that's what gets them excited, is to just anticipate the next drop almost.
I think so, and people historically have bought into products because of a wider philosophy. Today, people buy into products because they're a productivity tool.
Yeah.
And it is very different. If we were doing this 15 years ago, we'd make we give it more of an identity. We give it a bit more life. I just don't think users care. Well, it's not, I don't think, it's just very true that the average day-to-day user, because we're going to be a daily driver, doesn't care for that. They just care about how effective the tool is. So it's more important that we just give most people this steady stream of upgrades, and we give them a steady stream of improvement, and they just believe that every day the product gets better, that it's there for them when they need it. And that's a happy customer, and we're very happy to have those customers. For those who want to engage more, that's what the podcast is for, that's what the blogs are for, that's what coming to see us at events is all about.
And it's interesting because what actually creates that, you said, that identity of the product is the product itself, is that intuitive UI, which is critical. And what I've seen throughout every time we participate in the tech releases and shows is the consistency of UI. So as a user, I come back the next week, there's new features, but I don't need to guess how they work. They're so consistent with the other features in the same approach that I just know and adapt that new feature almost instantaneously.
Definitely. And we've got some releases coming out this week. The mailer will go out by the end of the week in line for our presentations at IBC. So for those who are interested in following it, please look out for and if you're not signed up, please do sign up at Elevate.io.
Excellent. Thank you. Stephen, can the player be embedded into any web page?
Yes. So short answer.
Question: I feel the Elevate website has not changed much since launch. Despite the added features, can you not update it to encourage more dive in? I think that's a very eloquently made point. We would agree. In fact, that's part of the mandate of our new director that just started. We'll be working that as well. So we do want to make sure that's improved and we can talk better about new features. Howard, if a new feature is being added continuously, why not monetize earlier? The perfect is the enemy of good. Yes, we would agree that we want to monetize at some point. It's about getting the balance right. We are working on that front. I think by the dates we've given, we will be in the right space. If we can get it done any sooner, then we will.
Yeah, I think it's important to mention that we require the team structure because that's the billing entity. And if we were to monetize earlier than that, we then have a process of conversion, which would be extremely costly from a technology point of view. So we've obviously spent the initial phase building out the editor. That will continue to evolve, but don't underestimate how much work has gone on behind the scenes around team structures that may not be even visible because that's sort of slowly been rolling out behind the scenes and you won't notice it. But it's a really important part because it is the billing entity is teams.
I would also say, Howard, that what we've seen from other poster child companies that we want to emulate is there is a process to go through. And quality engineering is really to make sure that we get that product right. And then it's about getting users to play with the system, to acquire those users before we start transacting with them. We will transact with them as soon as we can, but we want to get them to try us out, interact with us, and then we transact. Good. Okay, long one. In your recent proactive interview, Ian mentioned getting the product above the waterline. There are a few remaining basic editing features whose release was imminent: text and team structure. Will the waterline be reached by the end of the year? At that point, will marketing be pretty great? Summit, over to you.
Yeah, so we've made obviously great progress on the two of the main four components. Text and team structures is obviously still to come. As I mentioned, team structures has a lot of work has already been done and implemented. I'm very confident that we will have all of those achieved by the end of the year. And along with it, there are obviously just general improvements that will be happening to the product in general. And those of you who use the product, you may not even notice some of the subtle changes, but literally every day a release goes out that has some impact on the end users. And if you think about how that works for other consumer products, people don't realize if you use Uber for to hail taxis, you won't notice how many times that Uber has improved in the last 10 years that I've been using it. If you were to use a version of it 3 years ago, you'd actually be a bit shocked when you saw it. Because what we want is not to have big knee-jerk changes to the product. That actually makes it very hard for users. And by having these lots of slow incremental upgrades, it's going to obviously make it easier for them to adopt the product. The big changes, and text is obviously part of a much bigger project as well. So text, whilst it's a very important mandatory feature for a video editor, it's also been the driver of the underpinning technology called generators, which allows us to do a lot more in the way of graphics, third-party data sources, things like that. So we could have rushed out an early version of text that would have satisfied just text, but again, it's been more important for us to get the foundations right going forward.
But I think it's important to highlight that the team, end of year is just in a few months, and the team is incredibly focused on speed and quality, and that's the balance that they're reaching. So we're doing things right, we're architecturing things right, but we're going at speed. And those two aren't contradictory, they're actually going together. And the releases are, every time you have something new, you release it whilst continuing to work on the architecture.
That's a good point. And I mentioned also in the interview on Monday that our dev team really started to perform. We hired this dev team late in 2022, and we're now kind of 18 months into their tenure here. And they've gone from forming and norming, and now they're really starting to perform. So that's coming through really quickly. I think another point on the iterative development is that some it might do soon, but I drive a Tesla right now, and it's amazing how often that product is updated and how things move forward. We want to have the same kind of philosophy whereby you will not notice the things that change, but if you then go from a Tesla and get back into a normal car, that it's just dramatically different. And I think that's where we want to get to with Elevate, is that we'll just be so remarkably different from any other tool out there that people just will stick with us.
Summit, it's fair to say that every time I come into the office and I see the developers, they're really passionate about this product. They truly want to bring something that's best in class, that's super intuitive. And so it's exciting as a board member and as a chair to feel the passion of the developers.
It does, if you bear in mind that we've had a lot of the core staff who worked on the core product with Stephen, many of which for a long time. There's always been that passion within the company. Obviously, some of the people that have joined, including myself and that, have obviously come from the industry, and we care a lot about this. But again, when you're building a new team, and some of the developers have come from no background in video, and it understandably takes some time to really understand, because you don't understand video editing unless you've edited video. There's just you can't explain it to anybody. You know, it would be like describing, bowling before you've actually ever bowled a ball. I don't know quite where that analogy came from, but we can all imagine you could have opinions about it, but you really don't have any understanding at all of the feeling of it. Let's go with skiing instead of bowling, because everyone can imagine skiing, but if you've never skied in your life, you really have no idea. And so what's really good for our developers is that as they're beginning to use the product, obviously we run lots of internal content creation sort of events or competitions and things like that, and you can see people beginning to do it. And the reason you know they're beginning to, because they're beginning to question why we've designed something a certain way, or you begin to hear, well, wouldn't it be better for the user if we did this? So that will just continue, and as we add more to the members to the team, and obviously as we broaden the team outside of development into marketing, even more feedback will come from there. But above everything, the feedback really does come from the users, and that we're beginning to really begin to understand. And I think it was mentioned earlier, there was a phrase that was one of the best phrases that we sort of got back from someone in the industry was, I already know how to use this tool. There was an immediate understanding of how it works, and that's really important.
Yeah, I would just mention, just because Sumit can say, I mean, Sumit is a brilliant product guy. Some of you are realizing this already. But one of the key things is we're not just doing a checkbox product where we tick off features. Each product itself is extremely brilliantly designed, and it's being developed in depth. So you wouldn't necessarily notice this from a list of features, but when you come back, you will see how much better we are at a lot of these features than, well, some of the people we've tried who are quite shocking.
I think it's worth touching on that. When you look at the list, the quadrant that Ian presented, and some of the competitors that are in the cloud space, these tools are they're very skin deep. You may be able to produce a video, and it may be actually quite quick to do it. And we definitely are further behind on the marketing and the presentation, and as pointed out earlier, things like the website. However, our product is a product that users will be able to use in the long run. They'll be able to, they won't run out of steam after using it for 3 days. There's so much more scope for them. And a very good test for, obviously everybody here can sign up to Elevate. Try making a video longer than 10 minutes in any other product other than ours. When you've got hundreds of cuts, you've got dozens of clips of media, you'll see how well Elevate performs. And if you try and do the same thing on any other web platform, you'll get very frustrated very, very quickly. And a lot of that is down to the core technology, because it has that desktop speed and smoothness. It actually makes the experience very pleasurable. So I do, the best way, rather than hearing from us, the best way to evaluate yourselves how we compare against the other cloud providers is try them and try us.
I think that plays very well into the development of the creator economy, because that's where it's going. The creators that we're talking about in a conceptual way, they're little mini media companies themselves, and they're creating quality content now, and they need to have the tools to do that. We've got 2 questions that are similar. One is, when do you envisage using plugins? Have you had interest from anyone wishing to do that? And when do you expect to bring on third-party architecture? So maybe you want to pause.
Yeah, so I mean, I think we answered a little bit about the plugin one when we were talking about text. Text is built on plugins. Plugins are essentially the core technology which is being used. So we've developed text, we're developing other ones which will be released soon as well. They're all built on our plugin architecture. We'll be the author of those for the immediate future. But of course, we are, in fact, in Amsterdam, we have meetings lined up with industry leading plugin providers for traditional video editing suites. Obviously, they're not going to translate completely, but we're starting a conversation with others. And that's just with the high-end traditional video editors. the scope for plugins is far, far greater than exists for video at the moment. There are no plugins built for the traditional video editors that bring live data in or graph things or even the AI inputs are sort of only early days. So we know that plugins is going to be very important for us. We don't have the monopoly in ideas. We certainly can't, we don't have all of the engineers in the world. It's going to be far better for us to go down that marketplace route. It's going to make a lot more sense. Bring on board third-party architecture apps like Capcom have not.
I think you just answered.
Yeah, I think it's part of the
You just
same one.
answered
It's part of
the
the same
same
thing.
question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can we buy an Elevate IO t-shirt yet? Not yet, but what's the space? From launch March 2025, are there any plans to regulate for the market of user accounts, or will this be part of the 6-month trading update? TBD. We'll look at that. We certainly want to make sure the market's more informed of where we're going in terms of the numbers. We'll do it where appropriate. Obviously, we don't want to give competitive data out to fierce competitor too much, but we definitely want to keep you guys informed of where we're heading to. That is all the questions we currently have, I think.
Absolutely, Ian. That's great. And thank you very much indeed, all of you, for being so generous of your time there and addressing all of those questions that came in for investors. But Ian, perhaps before really just looking to redirect those on the call to provide you with their feedback, which I know is particularly important to yourself and the company, if I could please just ask you for a few closing comments to wrap up with, that would be great.
Thank you very much. Yeah, well, I want to say thank you very much to everybody on the call for your time this morning, for your support, for some of you over many years. And I really do hope that you can see the real optimism in this room right now, because the stars really are aligning. We've got the product, we've got the technology, we've got the board and team, and we're really now pushing into that opportunity, which is very, very imminent. So thank you very much. I see one more question coming, so maybe we can just go there quickly.
The answer is yes.
Okay.
We already have a concept of keeping it. It's a feature that exists already in Big Blackbird, and it will definitely, obviously, be implemented that way.
Thanks again for your time, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you.
Much appreciated.
Perfect. Thank you, guys. And thank you once again for updating investors this morning. Could I please ask investors not to close this session, as you'll now be automatically redirected for the opportunity to provide your feedback in order that the management team can really better understand your views and expectations. This will only take a few moments to complete, but I'm sure will be greatly valued by the company. On behalf of the management team of BLACKBIRD PLC, we would like to thank you for attending today's presentation. That now concludes today's session, so good afternoon to you all.